His name and James
Joe.
Bond. Yeah.
You know, Trig's done a good job of bringing up some of the new generation and the old generation, and I actually had the privilege of being able to see both. If you were to write a description, let's say for the old school wrestling and the new school that we're seeing today, what would be the differences in your description?
Psychology. They're great. These kids that are out there, they're unbelievable athletes. They're gun-ho. But what really draws, or what you had to do, is you needed to learn. We became like doctors of mass psychology, and going out there to draw money. Here's one I'll give you as a rule, as what I would do, or other people in my position from old school. When you go out to the ring, you're wrestling for next week. You're not wrestling for that moment. Those people are already there. So everything you do is to bring them back next week. And that's a whole different psychology that's not understood now, or it's probably lost. Just a couple of us still have that. And now it's such a great show with pyrotechnics and flying and like guys falling off ladders through tables and everything they do. The entertainment is a different form of entertainment. So the difference is we could draw a lot of money by psychology and by the actual wrestling that you did. You know, I hate music. I hate music and pyrotechnics. When I go out, I can tell you, without seeing it, what the last match, how it was, if it was good, if it was indifferent, if it was bad, and that dictated to me where I'd start. For instance, if I came out and they were all rumbling and having a great time and it was just a hot match, I start on a 2. If I come out and they're sitting on their hands, I might start on an 8 and bring it down to a 3. But when I got pyrotechnics going off and all this, I can't hear them. So that's a real old school piece of business. The other thing for old school and difference is when you walk to the ring, I walk very slow. There's 2 reasons for that. One, because I used to count the house, because you used to cheat you. So I used to be able to get it within $2,000-3,000 all the time. Also,
very practical.
Also, the 2 people that were doing the commentating are always talking, trying to get themselves over. Well, the slower you walk to the ring, they run out of stuff to say, and eventually they're going to have to talk to you. About you rather. So once I get up on the apron, I always lean against the ropes, and I don't know what they think I'm doing, but when I lean against the ropes, I look straight at the commentaries. Like, are you finished now? All right, now talk about me. Those are a couple of things that aren't discussed from the old school that are different than the new school.
I think one of the things that people can appreciate about your career is you're one of those guys who's obviously had talent in wrestling, but you're also great behind the mic. Nowadays, some of these guys, they get behind the mic, they're just not as charismatic. Who would you say is a guy that really stands out?
You know, I had a good lesson taught to me a couple weeks ago that stands out. I always cut my own promos. I'd learned just by trial and error. And about 2-3 weeks ago on Raw, they had asked me, please, just try this, would you? And it was a very low-key, very honest interview, very low-key, honest interview. And it got a tremendous amount of response. So my point is, it's much more difficult to do the type of interview that I would do, like a Piper's Pit, as opposed to the more just a speaking back and forth. But I think that they have the audience conditioned to listening more intently to what's going on, and now we can apply a storyline to it. I'm daffy, I can't remember what you asked me, but I guess that's the difference, man.
Okay. And then also, obviously earlier George had brought up They Live. There's just half of the questions that came in for you were about They Live.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, how did you hook up with John Carpenter, man? That's like the cream of the crop there.
Nah, it was God, man. I was at WrestleMania 3, and Cyndi Lauper's manager, Dave Wolf, said, this guy wants to meet you. And in those days, I think Sound of Music was playing on the airplanes. We were always in the sky, and I didn't know who he was. I said, listen, I'm a little busy. There's 93,000 people out there. And no, come on. Hello, how are you? Thank you very much. And away I went, and I wrestled. Then they asked me if I would come for dinner that night. And still, I was told he was a director, but I didn't know anything about him. And it was just like this, guys. It's like, hi, how are you? Could be orders. There's some rolls. Pass the butter. Would you like to star in my next movie? Sure. Can I get some more orange juice? Just like that. No more than that. And then I started working on it, and it was a really difficult piece of work to do. They Live. It wasn't easy at all. It was really difficult. Especially, I was the first wrestler that crossed over and was the principal in a major motion picture, Universal. And so I had all these eyes and all these people that, didn't want you to succeed. And plus the black cloud of wrestling at that time coming to Hollywood, I had to buck all that at the same time, try to put in a performance. And it is what it is now. But it was really, really difficult because nobody accepted me. It's just like, here comes another jock. Well, he's one of them phony wrestlers. Well, that's even worse. And had a few confrontations there.
That's amazing that you could land a role like that. Just in a little conversation like that. Would you like to come to my birthday party, and then also just like that?
Go past the roles. But I guess he had been watching me for a while. And what he wrote, not many. I don't discuss before I was 15 at all. And John Carpenter, the name of the guy, the character in John Carpenter's name was John Nada, which means nothing. And John Carpenter is a very, very intelligent man and a great director. And part of the mystique of They Live, and part of the reason it works, is because you don't know anything about John Nada. You don't know where he comes from. He's got a wedding ring on. You don't know why he's there. You don't know where he's going. And it keeps a mystique. And that mystique in the movie keeps you drawn to that. They were talking about making a series, They Live, and I was with John, and he was pretty bored, not saying anything. And all of a sudden they started talking about, well, if Nada comes back and supposing he has a girl, a little baby girl or whatever, and John, boom, piped right up and says, you don't want to take the mystique away from that guy. So that made it even tougher because in not having any backstory and just coming in, and obviously wasn't the greatest actor in the world there. I had my plate full.
You're great at improvisation. Were you able to improv at all during? I heard the bubblegum line just came out like that.
Nah, I'll tell you the bubblegum line. So John says, action. Then he says, hold the roll. And for those of you that are wondering what that means, it means everything's burning, film's burning, money's burning. He just has a directorial for the principal. So he says, hold the roll. He says, Roddy, you got bullets across you, you got sunglasses on, you got a shotgun, you're coming into a bank, you're not going to rob it, you need to say something. Action. I come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass and maul out of bubblegum. Lunch! That was it. Wow. That was it.
So now you're a good actor, a great pro wrestler. You're also incredible in improvisation. When's the comedy tour start?
Soon.
Well, get this trick. You'll like this. This is the rumor I also heard was your fight scene. For one, it holds the record, right?
Yes.
Guinness World Books,
yes.
Longest fight.
Yes, sir.
They cut 5 minutes out of that?
Yeah, they cut 5 minutes out of that.
Oh, my God. What happened? I mean, what did we miss?
Well, the thing was with
Victor didn't come out, did he?
No, Victor. If Victor came out, I would have been gone, man. Keith Davis, wonderful guy, 220-pound dancer. He's like Ernie Shavers, doesn't even know it. And when we started to do the fight, he would throw camera punches and he'd miss me. But on the way back, he'd catch my eye with his thumb or something. And finally, I said to Carpenter, I said, "Listen, man, just set up the cameras and let us go as far as we can." And I told Keith, from the neck down, just hit me. It's going to be a heck of a lot easier. Now, the fight was between two people that were almost friends as opposed to, enemies. And so, you needed to have that character in the fight, and the arc of the fight needed to match the arc of the movie. So in one particular portion, it kept the intensity high because we went going so far and so long, and the way Keith was hitting me, it kept the intensity there as opposed to breaking it up. But then there was one spot where I took a 2x4 and I swung it at his head, missed, and broke a window of a car. And at that point, I stopped because what did I do? This guy's my friend. I could have killed him. And Keith, at that time, he grabs a wine bottle and he says, "You dirty dog!" And he grabs a wine bottle and breaks it to cut me with it, but it cuts his hand. And that made me laugh, which made him even angrier, and then he charged me, we went over a car. So it was very intricate in the fact that it was between two people that didn't really want to hurt each other, but you still needed the intensity of that type of fight. So now I understand that it's what the stuntmen use as an example.